Well, it is Sunday afternoon out here, and as you can see, you can't see the mountains from the farm anymore here. There is a whole pile of smoke blowing in over the mountains from the fires down in the States in Washington, Oregon, and California. So the smell of campfire is in the air. You can see my grazeland here is drying out pretty quick. This happens, of course, every fall as it dries out. The grass matures. The cows have done a pretty good job grazing this year, though. But we're out here doing a chlorine shock on the well. And here's a really good example of common plantain and how big this can grow when there's no competition around it. It's a cool overcast Monday morning, and you can see we do have a little bit of frost damage from last week in some of this corn. Very, very minor, really just some leaf tips. The corn itself, this is noble fruit area, just coming into dent stage here, but we don't have hard caps on the end yet. Milk layer isn't really visible at this time. But it is coming along. But with this, overcast, cool, smoky weather, probably we're not going to see a whole lot of corn development over the next week. So it's going to be a little slow this week until that smoke clears and we get some warmer temperatures. And if it sounds like I'm talking real funny this week, it's because I just had to go and get a root canal this morning, so I'm still pretty frozen. Oh, there's some potato harvesters going over there, and looking pretty good. These ones are going into storage. They're not for fresh delivery. Well, normally I really like to fly my drone manually, but today I'm letting AutoTrack kind of take over for me, and I'm doing some trying to do a time lapse of the drone above a potato harvester, and I'm trying to see how well ActiveTrack will hang on to it on the corners. So far it's a little hit and miss. Oh, here's another cornfield. This one is close to the Old Man River Valley, and you can see it has a little bit more frost damage on some of those upper leaf tips and tassels. But once you get down below, everything down here looks nice. This is 15-inch row spacing, which does definitely have an advantage as far as fighting frost at this time of the season. These cobs or ears are not ready yet. We don't have hard caps on them or anything yet. Milk line is just not even really visible on this one yet, so still needs a way to go. Hopefully this smoke clears and these can develop. Well, I've been asked to come out and take a look at an alfalfa grass field that's had a reduction in yield the last couple of years due to dandelions. And when you take a look at the field, you can see just how many thousands and thousands of dandelion rosettes there is here. So it's definitely choking out the grass in the alfalfa. You can see, like, there's not a whole lot of alfalfa plants. There's one here, there's one there, there's one over there. Not nearly as thick as it should be. In a field like this, I'm probably going to recommend that the whole field basically gets sprayed out, recropped into something else for a couple of years before it goes back into forages again. In-crop options for control of dandelion and alfalfa are very limited and ineffective. The other approach you can do is you can attempt to wait until later on in the fall. For a very brief period of time, this alfalfa is going to go dormant, and the dandelions will hopefully still be active, but that's going to depend on the weather and the temperatures. If that happens, you can hit these dandelions with a mixture of glyphosate 2,4-D, and you can kill a whole pile of these fall rosettes, which should clean up the field pretty effectively. But it's a very narrow timing window, and not all of the alfalfa will be inactive, so you will still kill some alfalfa more than likely. You can also attempt to do the same thing in the spring. However, in the spring, generally the alfalfa is going to break dormancy before most of us would have our sprayers out and de-winterized. So we don't have very much of an opportunity in the spring either. It makes it very challenging in this area of the world for doing this. Well, here's where the potatoes go after they've come out of the field. They get trucked in and they go up these conveyors into these hoppers where they're a little bit further cleaned and checked for rocks, clumps of dirt. The conveyor is kind of open, so a lot of that dirt just kind of sieves through and falls down out of the ground. And then there's a final inspection by a group of girls as they get conveyed into this building over here, and then they're in climate controlled storage until they end up going out on delivery. Got some of the girls in this nice little tent here sorting out the final rocks and bits of crap. And this is what it looks like when they're done. And then once they're finished that process, they come along this conveyor and they are stacked in here, and that's where they stay for storage. And it's got ventilation through the floor. Well, now that we had some rain and moisture last week, we are starting to see some things emerge. So here on this dryland corner, this winter wheat was seeded
about a month ago, and it's just starting to come out of the ground here. So we're just one leaf here, and you can see we got a bunch of volunteer canola and stuff. This was a canola field in here 2 years ago, but we're starting to see a whole bunch of it come up now. You can see the rest of the winter wheat under the irrigated portion came up really nice and is basically in 4-leaf stage and tillering out. Well, there's some winter wheat that got seeded into potato stubble last week, and it is up and looking pretty good. So everything here is going nice. We got a really good stand so far. Well, if you've got wheat stubble that looks like this, and you got patches of kochia that's regrowing like crazy, and Canada thistle and dandelion and so on and so forth, give DB878 or Intruvix from FMC a chance. It is very good on kochia and Russian thistle, especially if you mix a little bit of 2,4-D in there. And yeah, there's some special deals on Intruvix for this fall. And if you do it before October 1st, you can go into pulses or canola for next year. Well, we got a bit of a southwest breeze today, and it's a little bit warmer and not quite so smoky, so we might actually see some sunlight today. And this field is barley stubble, but it has been reseeded into fall rye. So the winter rye here is just starting to germinate. The pivot's going around, keeping things wet, and we have quite a lot of volunteer barley is coming up in this field, and that's not unusual to see. However, it generally does not survive the winter. It will freeze during the winter and won't be a problem next year. Well, the silage oats are coming along really well by Colehurst this week. They're waist tall on me now, which makes them probably at least 3.5 feet or so tall. And we are into the milk stage, so these heads are filling out pretty good and starting to pack on the tons. So this should yield very well. The aphids seem like they're under control for the most part in here now. There's an absolute pile of ladybugs in here that are eating away at them. So things are looking good. Won't be too much longer. This will be getting cut. Well, hopefully now we got a little bit warmer weather, or warmer than 10 degrees anyways. With a little bit of a breeze, some of these canola swallows should dry out. The seed inside feels like it's fully mature. There's no greens in it. It's ready to be combined, but right now the swath itself is pretty tough, so needs to dry down just a little bit more. Well, combines are just really starting to get going today. Must still be pretty tough because I think he's barely managing 1 mile an hour over there in that canola. Well, here you can see the marshmallow harvest is coming along quite nicely. So these ones have already been euthanized before being taken out of the pasture and stacked for easy transport. Soon they're going to be shipped off to the factory where they'll be run through an extruding die and turned into the bite-sized treats we all enjoy. Well, here I am in some relatively freshly combined canola. This was just straight cut last week, and you can see we have some canola is starting to emerge in here already. With the moisture soil conditions, the stuff is really getting going. And if you look around, you can still see there's little pockets of canola seeds sitting on some of these leaves that haven't even touched the soil yet. So those ones haven't germinated yet. One of the best ways to manage for that in the fall here is to just come in with a harrow and hit this with a quick pass of the harrow. And what you end up doing is you incorporate that seed, or you get that seed to soil contact, and you can get that canola germinated in the fall here. And by doing that, you can get about 60 to 80% of your volunteer canola out of the way in the fall, and then just let it freeze to death during the winter. And then in the spring, your best approach, or late fall, is come in with something like pre-pass or FMC's Express Pro, something with some residual canola control. Either do that just before freeze up or early in the spring before you seed, and you'll never know you had canola in this field the year before. Here's this early season corn by Lethbridge, and when you bust open these ears and take a look inside, you can see we've got a pretty well defined milk line. It's about 40 to 50% of the way down here, so we're pretty much at silage timing. As soon as the crop overall reaches the proper moisture level, we can start taking her down. Just delivering some Focus on farm this afternoon. If you're not familiar with it, Focus is an FMC product and gives you very good residual control on both wild oats as well as some broadleaf weeds. So if you're putting winter wheat in the ground, you really should give this one a shot. Thanks for watching. Like and subscribe, and we'll see you next week.